Hello, everyone. I am now going to give you a demonstration of the grief and growth timeline, because it's really difficult to describe without demonstrating it. So here we go. You can do this on a blank piece of paper. You don't have to do it on a computer like I'm doing now. And you're going to start up here with your birth and down here with today, and you're going to draw a line. And it can be just a regular direct line, or if you have a lot of stuff that you want to put in it, you can make a big old squiggly line like this because you have many, many events. And I'm going to show you a sample of what that might look like. So let's just do it with a straight line to make it simple for this demonstration. Relatively straight line. There's birth, there's today. And what you're going to do is you're going to mark 3 significant turning points in each major event of your life. So we're going to start with the color red to indicate that the traumatic, or maybe not so traumatic, but just significant losses that you've experienced in life. And let's just start right here. Let's say you're 5 years old and your father dies. That's a pretty big loss for a 5-year-old, assuming you had a relationship with your father and he was in your life. And then let's go down about here, and let's say you're 18 and you get in a really terrible car accident and you are seriously injured, and you're in the hospital and rehab for a long time with a lot of pain, and it's a horrible traumatic experience. And then let's say life goes on and you go over here and you get married. We're going to skip that because we're going to come back to that. And your next trauma is your child dies. That's pretty intense. And then later over here, you get divorced. And later over here, you're much older and you have a serious illness. Okay, we're just going to start with that. And of course, I'm just making all these things up. So now you're going to go back, and with a different color, you're going to put in the decisions you made in response to these experiences. So here you are, you're 5 years old, your father leaves, you are now raised by your mother, she works all the time, and you're in daycare, or you live with your grandparents, and money is a struggle, and it's hard. So you might have made a decision that you're never going to be safe again, that the people you love are always going to abandon you. Then again, you might have also made the decision that living with extended family, like you did with your grandparents, is a really good idea and provides for a better life. So the next event over here, at age 18, you had this terrible car accident and a lot of rehabilitation and pain. You might have made the decision that you don't feel safe in the world anymore, and it's not safe to drive a car. Or you might have made the decision that the doctors were wonderful and they did such a good job helping you, and you have a lot of respect for medicine. The decisions can go either way. Next trauma in your life, let's say you're 45, this is where your child dies. What decision might you have made about that? You know, that everything you love is going to be taken away, that life isn't safe. Depending on the circumstances of the death, you might have made many judgments and decisions all around that. The medical establishment might have failed. A drunk driver might have been the cause of the death. Whatever it is, you made decisions. Your response to the experience, along with many other things, resulted in some sort of decision or belief that you created in response to it. Okay, so here's where you got divorced, and you might have made the decision that, you know, relationships can't be trusted. You'll never love again. Or you might have made the decision that you're going to deal more fairly for yourself in relationships and not settle for anything that doesn't honor your dignity. And then finally here you get a serious illness. Let's say you're 61 and you get prostate cancer, and you recover, and you made a decision that again, you know, the medical establishment did a good job or a bad job, or maybe a decision that life isn't fair and you never get a break. I mean, who knows, whatever it is, it can go either way. So now we're going to go back to the third part of this, and we're going to go to a different color. And in this color, we're going to note the growth. See here, red equals your losses. Blue is the decisions you made in response to the loss, and green is the growth that occurred. Now here's where you really see the healing. So let's go back here where Dad leaves when you're 5, and you made whatever decision you made about life based on that. And here comes a piece of growth. Your mom remarried, and you ended up with a really good stepfather. Or maybe she never remarried, but she went back to school and got a degree and got a really good job, and you moved to another city and you ended up with a really good life. Something, I don't know, I'm just guessing, I'm just making this up. Something positive came out of that experience. All right, so here you are where you're 18 and you got in the car accident and had the serious injuries. You made a decision maybe that you respected doctors for all the help they gave you, or maybe you hate doctors. Maybe you never drove a car again. Maybe you did so well in your physical rehabilitation that you decided to be a bodybuilder and really focus on health and strength. Whatever the decision is, something happened here, this green line, that propelled you toward growth. Maybe you decided to go to medical school and become a doctor because of this experience, or you know, again, really wanted to work on your health and your physical strength, and so you became super healthy, exercise, healthy eating, all of that. Something came out of that. Now, this is a very simple timeline. You probably got a whole lot more than this, but I'm doing it the short version. All right, so here's the next trauma. This is where the child dies. Hard to imagine that anything positive could come out of that, but there it is. Something happened. Perhaps you decided at this point that you wanted to help other parents who had experienced this terrible, unspeakably terrible thing. And maybe you went back to school to get a psychology degree and become a grief counselor. Or maybe that triggered your interest in chaplaincy or religious studies, or whatever you're doing with your career at this point, that had something to do with it. So there's the piece of growth from there. And sorry, my lines are kind of weird. It's hard to draw with a mouse. Okay, and here you got divorced. They say that 50% of marriages end after the death of a child. From my experience, from what I've seen, I haven't seen 50%, but whatever. Here is the divorce, and here's the piece of growth that came out of that. And what that is, that could be that you might have decided, now that you're a grief counselor, to specialize in helping couples who go through this, or maybe siblings. And then the other piece of growth is you got married again. You found someone new, and you rebuilt a new life and found peace and a balanced, healthy relationship. Something happened. Only you know what it is. And then here's the serious illness that you have in your 60s. You recovered from it. And so maybe you were so impressed with the medical care that you got that you remembered, back here, when I got in that accident, I thought about being a doctor, but I never did go to medical school. Maybe here you decide to do that. Maybe you decide to become a paramedic, or maybe volunteer at a rehab facility, or work with disabled people, something like that. So this is what I'm trying to show. You have, a loss. You made a decision, whether it's a conscious decision or an unconscious decision, about what that meant. And as a result of all of it, some sort of growth occurred. So I'm also now going to show you an example of a very complicated one of these timelines that one of my students made. And I think I have it right here. Yeah, there it is. He went into great detail. This man was in his late 40s, I think, and he gave me permission to share this. And he made a very squiggly long line, and I guess he ended it right here because this is the rest of his life that he hasn't experienced yet. And he, instead of color coding, he used the black lines for the loss, and I guess the stars for the growth. We didn't have the decision-making piece back then. I'm not really sure what these yellow things are, but he also made a timeline key. Here we go. So the stars are for growth. The black lines are for the losses, and the little yellow splash is to show where he is doing continuing growth work on that. And he even put on the bottom some notes about what he learned about himself. So if you would like to see this close up, of course, I will email it to you. You can see he put detail on everything here. His dad stopped paying for art lessons, midlife crisis. Here his dad dies, his mother dies, his existential death, his ego died. He's a very spiritual guy. He's a chaplain at a children's cancer center. So that's what it could look like if you wanted to go into that much detail. Or you can do the simple one, the way I described it. So feel free to call me or email me if you have any questions at all. And it's a really wonderful process. Take your time, sit down with some meditative music and a cup of tea or a glass of wine or whatever, you want, and do this work because it's a beautiful process.